everyone, it's Mrs. Astor. We're continuing with There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom by Sachar. Today we're reading chapters 32 through 34. Bradley paid close attention as Mrs. Ebel taught arithmetic. He nodded his head every time she said something he already knew. Once he almost raised his hand to answer a question, but he lost his nerve. Somebody else gave the answer he would have given. I knew it, he thought as he nodded in his head. He had spent recess in the library reading My Parents Didn't Steal an Elephant by Uriah C. Lasso. When he was leaving the library, Mrs. Wilcox stopped him and said, "You were reading, weren't you?" "Yes." "Good for you, Bradley, good for you." He smiled now as he remembered it. It's because of Carla's book, he thought. The book was his lucky charm. As long as he had it with him, it seemed like nothing could go wrong. His black eye was all gone, too. When the bell rang for lunch, he put his arithmetic book away, took out his lucky book, and walked to Mrs. Ebel's desk. "May I please borrow the hall pass?" he asked. She let him have it. He knew she would. He was holding the magic book. He walked to Carla's office. Just as he was raising his fist to knock, she opened the door. "Bradley, what a pleasant surprise. You want to have lunch together?" he asked. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to go to the principal's office." "What's the matter? Did you get in trouble?" he joked. She didn't laugh at his joke. She shrugged her shoulders, then headed toward the principal's office. Maybe she really did get in trouble, Bradley thought as he watched her go. It's probably because she doesn't believe in rules. She must have broken one without knowing it. I should have warned her. But he wasn't too worried. He couldn't imagine anything bad ever happening to Carla. He walked through the auditorium and outside to the playground. He sat down on the steps outside the auditorium and ate his lunch. At least he had her book with him. That was almost as good as eating lunch with her. He didn't read while he ate. He was afraid he might accidentally spill food on the book, even if there were no such thing as accidents. Colleen Varigold walked by. "Hello, Colleen," he called to her. She stopped and looked at him oddly, then walked away without returning his hello. Bradley didn't mind. He had said hello to Colleen because he knew Carla would appreciate it. He felt Carla was watching over him, and it didn't matter that Colleen didn't say hello back, because in his heart he had heard Carla say, "Hello, Bradley, it's a pleasure to see you today." He finished eating, then opened the book. "Guess what they've done now? They wallpapered the garage. I told you they were crazy. Who ever heard of anybody putting wallpaper on the walls of a garage? Purple paper with yellow polka dots. I don't even know how they got in there. The garage has been locked shut for months. The lock was broken or something, so nobody could get in. At least I'm glad they finally got it open. It was beginning to smell pretty bad. You could smell it from the driveway. Now it just smells like paste. I can't wait until my parents get home and put an end to all this craziness. Their trial's next week. They have to be found innocent. I mean, if they stole an elephant, I'd know about it, wouldn't I? Where could you hide an elephant?" "Look, he's reading," said Robbie. "I didn't know he knew how to read," laughed Curtis. Bradley looked up. He was surrounded by Jeff and his gang. "He can't read," said Brian. "He just looks at the pictures." They all laughed. "What you reading?" asked Russell. Bradley closed the book and slowly stood on the concrete steps. "Chicken shockers," said Dan. Andy bounced a basketball. Bradley glanced behind him. Doug was blocking the door to the auditorium. "What's the matter, Bradley?" he asked. "Hey, Chalkers, what's the name of your book?" asked Robbie. He looked at his book, then stared defiantly at Robbie. "Let me see it," said Robbie. Bradley clutched it against his chest. No matter what, he wasn't going to let them harm Carla's book. "Aw, come on, Bradley, be a pal," said Robbie. "I just want to see it." Curtis chuckled. Robbie stepped up toward him. "You can't read anyway," he said. "Give it to me and I'll read it to you." He reached out and rested his hand on the book. Bradley jerked it away. "Uh-oh, I think he's getting angry," said Brian. "I just want to see it," said Robbie. Again, he reached for the book. Bradley held it under his left arm and against his chest. He made his right hand into a fist. Robbie backed away. "Jeff!" he called. "Come on, Jeff, teach him a lesson," said Dan. Jeff stepped between Andy and Russell. "All right," said Curtis. "Hold on," said Andy. "Let them get off the steps." The boys backed up. Bradley, clutching his book, walked down the concrete steps to where Jeff was waiting. "Do you want me to hold your book, Bradley?" said Andy. Bradley glanced at him. "Don't worry," he said. "I won't hurt it." Bradley handed Andy the book, then looked at Jeff. They stood on a patch of grass and dirt and faced each other. The bruise around Jeff's eye had turned brown with a greenish tint. Jeff raised his fist. The other boys formed a circle around them. "Come on, get him, Jeff!" urged Brian. Give him another black eye, said Russell. Bradley readied himself. He raised his fists in the air, then lowered them. He had an idea. Hello, Jeff, he said. Robbie snickered. Jeff stared at him, wide-eyed. Hello, Bradley, he replied. Bradley smiled. He held out his hand. Jeff smiled, too. It was his first honest smile in a long time. He shook his best friend's hand. The other boys were dumbfounded. No one said a word. And finally, Andy broke the ice. Do you like to play basketball, Bradley? He asked. Bradley looked at him bewildered. I'm not very good, he said. So? None of us are, said Jeff, patting him on the back. Now we'll have even teams, said Robbie. Bradley was terrible. He dribbled with two hands. He passed the ball to people who weren't on his team. But worst of all, whenever anyone passed the ball to him, he said, thank you. He never shot at the basket. He didn't dare. Finally, after his team was losing 28-6 anyway, everyone told him to try a shot. He looked around for someone to pass to. Jeff sat down so Bradley couldn't pass it to him. Just shoot, he said. The rest of his team sat down too. Shoot it, they said. Everybody in the other team sat down too. Shoot the ball. Bradley faced the basket. His tongue slipped out the corner of his mouth. As he carefully aimed, then threw the ball high in the air. It hit the back of the rim, bounced against the backboard, then dropped through the net. Great shot, said Jeff. Way to go, said Andy, patting him on the back. At first, he couldn't believe it, but then he saw Carla's book lying on the ground at the base of the basket. No wonder, he realized. Everyone headed for the water fountain. Bradley went along too, even though he wasn't thirsty. But then, once he got there, he realized he was thirsty. He just hadn't noticed. Good game, Bradley, said Brian. You just have to stop passing to people who aren't on your team, said Dan. Maybe you should give the rest of us on your team black eyes too, said Robbie. Then you'll know who to pass to. Everyone laughed, even Bradley. He and Jeff were the last two at the water fountain. Everyone else had already started back to class. As they drank, their eyes met, and they broke up laughing. How did you get the black eye? Bradley asked after he stopped laughing. Melinda, said Jeff. Bradley nodded. She's strong, he said. Oh boy, you can say that again, said Jeff. They laughed again. My book, Bradley suddenly exclaimed. He ran back to the basketball court where he'd left it. Jeff shook his head as he watched Bradley run away. Life's weird, he thought. He walked into the boys' bathroom and splashed his sweaty face with cold water. He had to hold the faucet down with one hand and splash his face with the other. Colleen Varigold walked in. He stared at her. She looked around, then screamed, and ran outside. Jeff watched the door swing shut behind her. Life was too weird for Jeff to return to class. Anytime you want to talk again, Carla had said, please feel free to come and see me, even if you just feel like getting out of class for a while. He hoped she'd meant it. He had a lot he wanted to say to her, beginning with, I'm sorry. He slowly walked to her office. He hoped she wasn't with someone else. He knocked. Carla opened the door and smiled when she saw him. Hello, Jeff. He smiled. Hi, Carla, He stopped because he saw somebody else was sitting at the round table. I believe you two know each other, said Carla. Jeff lowered his eyes. Hello, Colleen, he muttered. Colleen Varigold covered her face with her hands. You don't mind if Jeff joins us, do you, Colleen? Carla asked. Colleen shook her head with her hands still over her face. Jeff awkwardly sat down. Mrs. Ebel doesn't know I'm here, he said. I'll write you a note, said Carla. Colleen peeked out from between her fingers. I'm not supposed to be here either, she said. Carla turned to Colleen. So what's the big emergency? Can you say it in front of Jeff? He already knows, said Colleen. She looked at Jeff. You better not tell anybody. I won't, Jeff promised. Tell anybody what? Asked Carla. Colleen walked into the boys' bathroom, said Jeff. I was there washing my face. Jeff! Colleen exploded. You just promised you wouldn't tell. Oops, said Jeff. He blushed. It was only Carla. You were going to tell her anyway, weren't you? Colleen smiled at him. I didn't go in there on purpose, she explained to Carla. It was an accident. I don't believe in accidents, said Carla. Colleen stared at her in amazement. She wondered how Carla knew she had gone in after Jeff on purpose. She turned to Jeff. I'm sorry for saying hello to you when you didn't like it. That's okay. Anyway, how was I supposed to know you didn't like it? You always say hello back. I know, I can't help it. Whenever anybody says hello to me, I always have to say hello back. He looked at the picture of the green monster with 6 hands hanging on the wall. If a big scary monster said, "Hello, Jeff," I'd probably say hello back to it too. Colleen laughed. Well, what's wrong with that? Demanded Carla. If a monster says hello to you, you should say hello to it. If you don't, then I really have to wonder which one of you is the monster. Colleen frowned. She suddenly remembered that Bradley Chalkers had said hello to her at the beginning of the lunch period, and she had walked away without saying hello back. It made her feel terrible. You can say hello to me whenever you want, said Jeff. She smiled again. Hello, Jeff, she said. Hello, Colleen, said Jeff. I read somewhere, said Carla, that in Zen, the most important rule is that when one person says hello to you, you have to say hello back. What's Zen? Asked Colleen. A religion, answered Carla. She got a book from her bookcase. Here it is. She read aloud from Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters by J.D. Salinger. In certain Zen monasteries, it's a cardinal rule that when one monk calls out hi to another monk, the latter must call back hi without thinking. Jeff should be a Zen monk, Colleen exclaimed with delight. Jeff laughed. I already say hello to anybody who says hello to me, he said, proudly. Can girls be Zen monks too? Colleen asked. Why not? Asked Carla. Colleen laughed with delight. Then she said, Jeff, do you want to come to my birthday party next Sunday? Yes, said Jeff. That's the second most important rule about being a Zen monk. Whenever another Zen monk invites you to a birthday party, you have to say yes. Colleen laughed again. You're the only boy so far, she said. I'll invite one more, but only one. I can't invite too many boys. Suddenly, she looked very serious. She knew what she had to do. And we'll find out what that is next time.